happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in and for choosing to spend some of your time with me. I'm Maria Milagros, and this is Wisdom Wednesday, wisdom with a Z, like the Wizard of Oz, you know, when you pull back the curtain, it's just a dude, and then he's like, you already have courage, but here, you need a heart to symbolize it, right? Like, you already have a brain, but here, do you need a piece of paper to symbolize it? So a lot of times we are in search of other people telling us that we're worthy, we're good enough, we're courageous enough, we're valued, we're intelligent. And this space is kind of like that, right? Holding a space to remind you of how amazing and capable and worthy and deserving you are, because all of those things are already true. We don't always have the opportunity, and yes, I said opportunity, to put those things into practice all the time, but they are always true about you, right? Whether you realize it or not. And it might look different in different situations and different facets, and depending on where you are in your life. So when I decided to do Wisdom Wednesdays, mostly because it's the W and the W and it's kind of sing-songy, I knew it had to be the Wiz, as in like with the Z, because I'm not here to give you anything that somewhere deep down inside you don't already know to be true, which is why you showed up. Because you would not have showed up had you not been already aligned or connected in some way. Anywho, we are talking about awareness and becoming more aware, just kind of spending a month paying attention to these different aspects and pieces of how we function and move through our lives, because all things begin with awareness. We cannot change what we are not aware of. So we have to pay attention so that we can become aware. And then when we're aware, we can create the shifts that are necessary and then take action accordingly, right? So the first week of the month, we talked about awareness in who we are, knowing who we are. I am a child of the Most High. I am of Source. I am universal power collapsed into a body, right? So that I can have human experiences and I can go through life with the adventures and the engagement and all the good and all the not so good, right? And the second week we talked about, which was last week, we talked about how becoming aware of how we're interacting with life. Do we feel like life is happening to us, for us, or through us? Right? Are we victims? Are we receivers? Or are we creators and collaborators with life? And so this week, I want to talk about awareness and how it lives in our body. And our body has this amazing capacity to provide us with nonstop feedback, right? And like earlier today, I was standing up and I was on a coaching call, and I tend to stand a lot. So I was standing up on a coaching call and I felt this like through my leg. I don't know how to explain that, but it was like a little. So I knew I had to stretch out that muscle, right? So I'm standing there, I'm talking to the client. I put my hand on the counter while she's talking. I grab my leg and I start stretching out my quad. And as I'm stretching it out, I feel that kind of pulse, release, until it fully released, and then I let it go. And then, of course, me being me, I had to do the other side because I'm always in search of balance. And so I did the other side. And when she and I were done, that moment, which I usually wouldn't even have thought of, was brought back to me. And that's how I knew that this needed to be today's video, because it's this awareness that our body is constantly feeding us information and an amazing source of feedback, right? And fear lives in our body, love lives in our body. It lives in our consciousness as well, but we have reactions and responses that happen in the body. There's this great quote by Kelly Oliver, and she says, "Your body keeps an accurate journal regardless of what you write down." And I love that, because more and more studies are showing that it's not aging that's deteriorating the body. It's how people are using and treating their bodies over long periods of time, and whether or not that causes decrease or increase in the functioning of those parts of the body, right? It's not so like aging in and of itself isn't a thing. Yes, we're all aging and we're all going to get older and die, but that's not what precipitates deterioration in the body. It's how we have been treating the body, right? And there's this, some scientists who are saying they can now check your, like after you pass away, right? They can check your bones, and there are particles in your body that your body holds on to that can demonstrate or show to them the different places that you have been and lived. What? The body doesn't lie. It holds a record, right? And there are more and more studies that are revealing that high blood pressure and heart disease and diabetes in African Americans in this country is less contributed to the fact that they're African Americans and more contributed to the fact that they have to deal with discrimination and racism on a consistent basis, and it is creating deterioration to the body. The human body does not lie. The body does not lie. I know when I meet someone new, I go to shake their hand and I get an instant feeling in my stomach. And if that feeling is like, walk away, girl, I'm walking away, because my body does not lie. It knows things, and it knows it has a connection to source, and it has a connection to the universe, and it has a connection to God that I might not in my like mental awareness have, right? Now, that being said, it's also a great place where we can learn about our programs, because if without thinking about it, a woman sees a man coming down the street and she crosses the street, her program is he's not safe, and your body almost compels you to move. The human body does not lie. When I fell off a 5-story building, the friend who was there with me went inside to get lemonade. It took me years to be able to sip a glass of lemonade because it literally made my stomach feel like it was in knots and like I was going to throw up. Heights, not a problem. Lemonade, because the human body holds a record and it does not lie. The human body holds a record and it does not lie. And so the reason why I wanted to share this, and when we're thinking about awareness, is because we have this amazing calibrator, right? Our body is this amazing calibrator that can help us recognize where we're at, where the shifting needs to happen, where we have some biases. Ooh, right? When we feel that, where our biases are, where our joy lives. The human body has this capacity to pull away from or lean towards what it considers in our programming, in our trauma, in our filters, in our experiences to be good for us or not so good for us, right? And sometimes that could be from programming, and sometimes that could be, or like trauma, right? Trauma and or programming. And sometimes it could be like for real, something greater than you is like, get away. And you don't have to necessarily consciously be aware of what it is, but learning to assess that, to become aware of that. And like, what is this? Why is my body responding like this, right? So when I'm standing there talking to the client and I feel that little pulse feedback, and I have trained myself that like, oh, I get this feedback and I have to do something with this information. And in that moment, it was stretching it out. So for this week, right, we know who we are. We are starting to learn about how we interact with life. So let us practice becoming more aware of what's happening within our bodies and how our bodies are responding to the people and the situations and the things that are happening around us, right? If I put down a certain picture and you have no history or response or trauma to that, you're going to be like, okay, what about that picture? Now, someone else who might be triggered by that will see that picture and their body will literally respond. And sometimes, because a lot of people are programmed to not listen to their body so that they can line up with the masses. And so sometimes we don't even acknowledge or recognize that we have those responses, or they might be so small because we've learned to disguise them so that we can survive and line up with the masses, right? So let's spend this week just paying attention to, becoming more aware of how our bodies are responding and what that might mean, right? And what is this feedback that my body is always constantly trying to give me? And just becoming aware. We're not doing anything with this information right now. We're just learning how to become more aware. Aware of who we are, aware of how we interact with life, aware of how we learn here, right? So that's all I have. Just awareness in your body. Awareness in your body. I said this in my last message, but this work right now, I recognize is for everybody, but it's not for everybody right now, because not every person is in the same place and ready to take on this level of work, right? And that's okay. It'll be here on YouTube probably forever and always and ever and always until you're ready, you know? But if you came here, or if you landed here, if you clicked on this, it was for a reason. So I trust and I believe that. So let us do this, become more aware of how we can do this work right here, right? Because all things begin and end right here. That's it. That's all I got for you. I love you. And I'm sending love and light in your direction. I don't have to know you to send love and light in your direction. One human to another. Let's become more aware. Let's pay attention, become more aware so that we can create healthy shifts to create a life that we want, that is filled with joy and peace and abundance because we deserve it. And that then creates ripple effects. Everything that we do, whether we realize it or not, creates ripple effects for the entire planet. So I want, as much as possible, my ripple effects to be those of joy and love, right? That's why we're here. I mean, here in this space right now in this moment. That's all. Okay, I'm out. I gotta go because I'll keep talking. I'll talk to you soon. See you next week. Peace.